Please be advised that Little Miss Recap contains adult language.
Confirmation of Princess Margaret's death came in a printed statement posted outside Buckingham Palace. The princess had suffered a third stroke yesterday afternoon and had been taken to hospital after suffering heart problems. The Queen was kept fully informed throughout the night, and Princess Margaret's children, Lord Linley and Lady Sarah Chatto, were at her side when she died. Princess Margaret was last seen in public late last year, celebrating the 100th birthday of Princess Alice, Dowager Duchess of Gloucester. The effect of two previous strokes, which affected Margaret's eyesight as well as her mobility, were clearly visible. Her death comes 50 years to the week since her adored father, King George VI, died from lung cancer, and her sister Elizabeth ascended to the throne. She also made a brief appearance at the Queen Mother's 101st birthday celebrations last summer. Friends say Princess Margaret found her illnesses increasingly hard to cope with.
She lost quality of life, really, and she couldn't do the things she liked doing. And I think the worst thing for her was when she became partially sighted.
Princess Margaret's death will also cast a shadow over the Queen's Golden Jubilee celebrations, which began this week.
Hi everyone, welcome to Little Miss Recap, the podcast where I'm going to be forced to say nice things about my sister today, and it's going to hurt me.
Oh shit. I didn't even think about the connection to your sister.
Yeah. Because this is all about sibs today. Sibs.
It is all about siblings. And Amy, this episode made me feel things.
Did your cold dead heart unfreeze?
It did unfreeze a little bit. I didn't cry, but there's many times in my notes where I say this is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This I actually think of the entire show, the entire series. I feel like this is the one that gives Elizabeth the most humanity.
Yeah, aside from like season 1, because I feel like in season 1 there was a lot of, when she was fucking around with Philip,
right, and then when her dad died and all
in the past, I would say 3 or 4 seasons, you're correct.
This
Absolutely
gave her the most humanity.
And I was just telling my mom last night, like we were talking about, because my mom calls me. I know she's listening. Hi, Mom. My mom calls me and gives me a little bit correction on our episodes, and
Hi, Mother Amy.
She, I was telling her, I'm like, there is no bond stronger than a sibling bond because you have lived a unique experience that no one else has. It's like you and I talked about with ex-wives, right?
Yep.
Like Todd's ex-wife and you have some similar experience.
Sure.
See, even that's wrong though, because you have a different relationship with him.
Because I have a very different relationship.
So we can't even, because I was thinking my ex-husband's new wife, we had a similar experience, but we really didn't because he was different by the time he married her.
Sure.
So it really is relegated down to just siblings, probably.
It is, and it's interesting. So as an only child, I don't obviously have that experience.
Yeah.
But I have said for years, so I have 2 cousins. My dad, my mother, my parents each had 1 sister, and my mother's sister never had children. My dad's sister had 2 children, both younger than I am. 3 years and 7 years younger than I am, respectively. And I have said to my dad many times, even though I'm not particularly close to my cousins, I love talking to them and being able to say grandmom, and we're talking about the same person. And we both call that person that name.
That's interesting, yeah. I guess it could extend to grandparents and cousins and stuff. Yeah.
And it's not even that we really spend a lot of time together because we're really, like I said, really not close. But they are the only people in the world that I can name a relative and we have the exact same relationship to that person.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's it.
That's interesting. I think in so many ways, there's no which is better, which isn't. But in so many ways, being an only child is such a great experience. But I think this is one drawback.
There's a couple of drawbacks. I will say one, not having that shared experience. I always
have your parents' full attention though, which is real nice.
Well, it depends. Just saying. Depends. I will say there are two ways in which I think being an only child is a detriment. I was able to do things and have experiences that I would never have gotten to have had there been more than one of me to
Yes.
feed,
Yes.
clothe, house, all that stuff. I
Yes.
know that 100%. My parents had very limited resources and they didn't have to split them, so that worked well for me.
Yeah.
But the two places in which it's really a challenge are, I thought my I always thought my parents' divorce would have been a lot easier on me if I'd had a sibling
Oh, that's
to
interesting.
go through it
Okay.
with, particularly
Okay.
because I was so young.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing is, and it's something I'm looking at, is caring for parents as they get older. It all
Yeah.
falls on me,
Yeah. Yeah. See,
particularly because my parents are divorced. So
but that
it's
could happen when you have siblings as well.
that absolutely can happen because
Yeah.
I know that's happened to many a sibling. I'm
Because
not
that's
going to
kinda
pretend like that
happening
doesn't
to
happen.
me. I know that Jenny is there when I need her in a pinch,
Sure, sure,
but
but
I'm
she's
not
not there
gonna
day to day.
yeah, I'm not gonna have her come in from New York City and, like, take my mom to a doctor's appointment when we get to that point. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's gonna be on me.
Mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's not 100%, but you do also have the
You have the
emotional
emotional
support, and
yes,
if there
yes,
was a crisis, you could call Jenny, she'd show up.
yes, yeah,
You
100%.
have somebody to call.
Yeah,
I
100%.
don't,
Yeah.
other than my sweet husband, who's wonderful, but
Well, and
he's
that's
also
that's what
different.
I was just gonna say, when you have a good partner, they can
Mhm,
fill that void, hopefully.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of things that Todd has offered to do for my family since we met,
Mhm.
it's I say it's above and beyond, he would say it's just what a partner does.
I will never forget when Timmy and I started dating. So we started dating September 3rd,
Mhm.
and my grandmother, not my
Right.
dad's mom, passed September 26th. And we didn't have enough people to be pallbearers. And I had to ask Timmy. I told you this. I had
Yeah.
to ask Timmy, and he did it.
Of course he did.
And I could tell you right now, my ex-husband wouldn't have done it. And I was
Mm,
with him for like 12 years.
wow.
So yeah, Timmy went above and beyond, I would say.
Within 3 weeks of dating, Todd absolutely would have done that had
Yeah.
there been a thing. I mean, we
Yeah.
were all in quarantine and lockdown, so even if someone died, we weren't having a funeral, but, otherwise, he totally would have.
But I do think that this episode just resonated with me because, my sister was here for Christmas,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'm just reminded of how easy it is to be with her. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just chill out, we
Right.
play our video games, like, that's our thing, we game when she comes in. I
Mhm.
don't game 360 days a year.
Right.
Those 5 days she comes in Christmas, we game. And, like, it's just easy. There's an ease about it. I
Mhm.
can't explain it, and she knows the real me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah. A
I
number
don't
of
know, it's
years ago
interesting. It's
um,
the she knows the uncurated me, the
right,
raw
she's
me.
seen you in all of your forms.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Good and bad.
yes, and she's the other than your parents is the only person who has known you since the moment you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
A couple years ago, so after college, I lived with my friend Julie for 2 years, and we'd been friends since high school. We're still friends. And she came and stayed with me for a weekend. I can't remember why she did, but for some reason she came and stayed at my house for a weekend. And we were both just hanging out, chilling out, watching. It was like we'd gone back to living together, and it was just this
Mhm.
ease of
Isn't that lovely?
yeah.
I don't have that many people in my life.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
That
mm-mm,
just that comfort level that, like, you know what I mean? It's so nice. And even like
mm-hmm,
our friend came over, and she's a Jenny's childhood best friend, and I've known her my whole life, and
mm-hmm,
again, just easy
yeah.
breezy. Mhm. Love it. So anyway, so this leads me to talking about how I loved this episode. It affected me very deeply, and I felt bad for Queen Elizabeth.
I did too.
Mhm.
This was the most human we've seen her in a really long time.
I will tell you too that I did read that she openly wept at Margaret's funeral,
Oh,
and I wish
wow.
that we saw that on
I
camera.
do too. Wow.
Yeah, it was one of the times that she openly cried
In public.
in public. And
Yeah.
also, just going to correction corner from my mom.
Yes,
My mom
please.
wanted to call and say
Can
it's
we have
not
your mom call in?
it's not necessarily a correction, but she told me something interesting. In our last episode, we were talking about the ring, the engagement ring, Diana's
Yes.
ring.
Yes.
And my mom said she could have sworn that she read that that was given to Harry, and that when William met Kate and wanted to propose to Kate, that Harry gave it to William.
Oh, interesting.
So I did some research, and it
Okay.
turns out that was started, that idea. I don't want to call it a rumor because it's not 100% debunked, but that idea was started with Diana's personal butler.
Ah.
He said when she died that the boys were each told to pick something. And Harry wanted the ring because he said he remembered holding her hand and seeing it.
Yeah.
And William chose her Cartier bracelet that her
Okay.
father had given her.
Okay.
So, and then when William wanted to marry Kate, I guess Harry said, well, it makes sense that you have the ring.
Right, because you're
Now,
going to ask someone of her first.
in Spare, Harry
Yeah.
writes that he does not remember this happening and that he
Okay.
never had the ring.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't know why the
That
personal
story
person is saying
exists.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
going to
mean,
trust him. I mean,
I
he
would
would know if
trust
he
him
had it.
too, but I do also think that he was a kid
Yeah.
and devastated, and in a, like those, in other words, what I think happened is that conversation probably took place where Harry
Mhm.
talked about the ring or maybe wanting it, but then it never happened.
Right. Could be.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, could very
Yeah.
well be. I mean, he would remember if he had it and he had to give it to William to propose to Kate.
Right,
Like,
'cause
if they were
this
adults at that point, he would
'cause
remember that.
Right, because this personal butler reiterates and clearly remembers Harry talking about holding her hand and having the ring on it.
Mhm.
So I don't doubt that Harry said that.
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
think that what happened afterwards didn't happen. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And maybe the butler didn't know that. Maybe he assumed that that's what
that
happened.
happened. I mean, we all have such, like, interesting memories of our parents when we're real little, and the things that
Mhm.
we latch on to
Mhm.
are all so bizarre. Like, I've talked about my mother's engagement bracelet before, and what I remember is when she would get dressed up to go on dates, she would
Mm.
put that on,
Hmm.
and I just thought it was so fancy
Yeah.
and so grown up.
Yeah.
The other thing she would always do, and I loved, is I wanted to wear makeup, and she was like, "Nah." I was like 6, and she'd be like, No, we're
No.
not doing
No.
makeup at 6."
Mm-mm.
But I would watch her put her makeup on. Like I said, I never left the poor woman alone. And she'd put her makeup on. Oh my God, the number of times I watched this woman go to the bathroom. Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry,
Mhm.
Mom. If you ever listen, I'm so sorry. I was all up in your business constantly. But she would put her lipstick on and she'd put it like on a little heavy, and then she would kiss me. So
Mm.
I would get lipstick.
That's cute.
That I loved.
That's
That
cute.
felt very
Very
grown up.
cute.
Yeah.
All right, let's do The Crown, season 6, episode 8. What's our title?
Ritz.
Ritz. Of course it is. Okay.
Ritz. Not the Ritz. Because that's how I wrote it at first, but no,
Yeah.
it's just Ritz.
Just Ritz. Okay.
So
Like
we
Ritz
open up.
crackers. No.
No, not Ritz
Mm-mm,
crackers. I do enjoy a Ritz cracker though.
I do too, especially when you're sick.
Yeah.
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 Little ginger ale and some Ritz crackers.
Way better than saltines
Yes.
for an
Agreed.
upset tummy. Yeah.
Agree.
Well, maybe not better for an upset tummy, but definitely better tasting than a
Yeah.
saltine.
Yeah.
Anywho, so here we are. We're in London, May 8th, 1945, VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. And we hear the announcement.
Wait, what was the date on that?
May 8th, 1945.
So that was VE Day? I could have sworn. Oh, you know what? My gram used to talk about, she was born on June 6, 1934. And I
Okay.
think on June 6, 1944 was something, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Hold on, let me just pull this up because I don't want to be an idiot.
Yeah, we don't want to sound dumb about this stuff.
June 6th, 1944. Was it? It was D-Day. It was D-Day. She was 10 years old on D-Day. That's what she's
Got it.
talking
Okay,
about.
that makes sense.
By the way, I want to go to Normandy. I didn't know you could go. You could go right on the beach. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
visit. I want to do that.
Okay,
That needs
let's
to
go do
happen.
that. I'll do that with you. And then we'll go to Monte Carlo
Oh.
and run around and go to San Tropez and visit that place as well. We're going to have a great little tour of France. It's going to be awesome. So it's the announcement of the surrender by the Germans. Winston Churchill it's an audio of him doing, this announcement. Elizabeth is hearing this. She runs to the window, and the square in front of Buckingham Palace is just filled with people celebrating. This war is finally over. And I mean, it's so interesting to think about. And we talked about this in Waco, the fact that, that was the largest gunfight on U.S. soil since the Civil War. And we think of World War II, and we all think of it as a terrible thing. And, the U.S. put out a lot and lost a lot and all that. But it was way different for London. Like, they were getting the shit bombed out of them.
It was way different. Yeah.
Way different.
Yep.
Not that we
I
weren't
mean,
celebrating in the streets too. We've seen this in New York and all of that, but
John Lennon was born during the height of the bombing in London. He was
oh wow.
born October 9th, 1940, and
Oh
he was
wow.
literally born and like shoved under a bed, like
Oh
because
my,
there was
because there was like
bombings nearby.
bombs going
Yeah.
on. Oh my God.
Could you imagine giving birth and having this go on?
No. Oh my
Jesus
God.
Christ.
Jesus. Ooh. Um, and so we see Elizabeth, she's dressed in her uniform because remember she was, part of the war effort.
She looks so cute. I was so happy to see Claire Foy back.
It's not Claire Foy, it's a different actress.
Wait, what?
It's a different actress.
Oh, I'm thinking of episode 10. Claire Foy comes
Yeah,
back.
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a different actress,
Sorry.
but looks a lot like Claire Foy.
Why did you describe Claire Foy?
Because she would have been too old.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. Okay. Thank God you're
Particularly
here,
now, 'cause
Amanda.
it's been like
Thank God
5 or
you're
6
here.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah, she would have been too old. And we've got Margaret and Elizabeth, and they want to escape the palace. They want to get out and they want to be with the people. This is some of the real research I did is what actually happened this night. So we'll talk
Okay.
about that. But what the story we tell is they'll have Porchy. I want someone in my life named
Porchy.
Porchy.
We all
And-
know I have the hots for Frenchie coming up next episode.
I know you do.
He gets
we've got-
dumped next episode.
Well, there's that. We've got Porchy and Peter Townsend. And we know who Peter Townsend is. Peter Townsend is the great love of Margaret's life. It's the one she should have married,
Yep.
but could not.
Which is
Elizabeth had to say no.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
But whatever.
And if it happened today, she would have been able to marry
Yeah.
Peter Townsend, but
Yeah.
not back then. And Margaret is just so jazzed by all this revelry. And Elizabeth seems like nervous, but she's like excited too. And they're both so Elizabeth is so worried about being recognized. Margaret doesn't seem to give a fuck.
Margaret doesn't give a fuck. Margaret is fun.
Margaret is fun.
She's fun.
I think, oh my God, she would have been amazing to be friends with.
Yep.
People are partying in the streets. They're in Piccadilly Circus. It looks amazing. This looks like a really fun night to be wandering around London. And, they're like, where should we go? Margaret says, we're going to the Ritz. Like, this is what we're doing. Elizabeth thinks they should go back to the palace. But Margaret is like, yeah, no, we're having fun.
Not happening. Margaret is she has a very Jenny-esque quality to her. Jenny would have corrupted me in this way.
Okay, cool. So this whole episode, we are really jumping back and forth between what I'm going to call current day. It's not, but current day in the story, and then back at that night in 1945. So current day, we see Margaret and Elizabeth. They're playing cards. And she says next week is May 8th, and they never do anything to celebrate it. Margaret says this. And she's like, the Queen's like, we do something for VE Day every year. Like, what are you talking about? And
Right.
she's like, no. Not England's VE Day.
Yeah.
Our day.
Yeah.
And she asks Elizabeth if she remembers, and she says, of course. And Margaret says, they almost lost her, but then they very much found her, the real her. And then you gave up, that's the she you gave up to become the other you.
Yeah.
And she said, she was so much fun. Don't you miss her? And Elizabeth says she recalls the promise to keep the events of that night secret. Remember, we're not talking about that night.
It must have been quite the night.
It must have been quite the night. Elizabeth says she has to go to Clapham Junction tomorrow for the local unveiling of the closed TV system or something. Like closed TV system, some bullshit thing. I have to imagine so much of Elizabeth's life was very boring. Of going to shit like this and being like
4-H competitions and shit.
Yeah, like the fuck, so weird. And Margaret says she has nothing planned, but soon she'll be going to Mystique. And Elizabeth says that's good. And Margaret asks why, and she says because that's where you always were the happiest. And so we see Margaret flying to Mystique, and I had to look up what the hell Mystique was because I'd never heard of it. It's an island in the Caribbean. It's a private island in the Caribbean archipelago, which is another good word.
Ooh.
Nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
It's known for its sand white beaches like Macaroni Beach, Pasture Bay Beach, and Endeavour Bay Beach.
Do we need to go there as well? Is
I
that
think we
also
do.
on our Little Miss Recap tour?
We do.
Wait, we're gonna do a tour, but we're only gonna go to, like, really fancy, beautiful places, so no one will even know we exist.
No, it'll be fine.
We'll be like, "Our new live show is gonna be in Saint-Tropez on a yacht." Everyone's gonna be like, there's, like,
Okay,
nobody
who are
here."
these 2 weird ladies who do not look like they belong on a
No,
fancy yacht?
no.
Oh, you're using your kidney bug.
Mhm. All
Nice
the
in the kidney bug.
sacrifices that I made to love you,
You
wasted.
I love it so much. Anyway, Margaret owned a home on Mystique. And so that's where she spent a lot of time.
Okay.
So
God, I would've stayed there constantly.
same. And so we see Margaret in Mystique. She's partying, she's swimming. She is just living her best life.
Mhm, mhm.
I feel like most of Margaret's life was led living her best life.
Except for the crushing heartbreak at the
Except for
center
the
of
fact
it
that she was miserably unhappily
Yes.
unhappy in
Yes.
relationships her whole life.
Yes.
Other than that,
Other than that,
great.
and her dying love for Peter Townsend.
To Townsend. Oh gosh, that makes me sad.
Mhm.
Though Matthew Good, who played Lord Snowden in the
Mhm.
first, oh god, he's so hot.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
is so hot. Have you ever seen the movie Leap Year?
It sounds familiar.
It's a real dumb movie. It's
Okay.
him, and it is Amy Adams,
Mm,
and she goes to Ireland to propose to her fiance, who's kind of weird,
never saw it.
Adam Scott. And apparently on leap year, the woman can propose to the man, so she has to get there on February 29th or some bullshit thing.
Okay.
There's issues, and she and Matthew Good, of course, fall in love, and it's a whole thing. It's just a lot of really pretty Ireland.
That's
And
why
it's
I
real
said, no,
cheesy.
I didn't see it, because I never forget a movie with a lot of Scottish or Irish beauty.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
yeah.
It's a dumb movie. It's actually a fun movie, but it's dumb, but it's
Okay.
beautiful. Anyway, so she is bawdy and she is drunk and she is telling dirty jokes by Princess Margaret standards,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
by our
yeah,
standards, but she's doing a lot of shit that the queen would never do.
Right.
Being drunk in public and all that.
Mhm, mhm. Classic little sib move.
Yep.
Mhm.
And she's talking to this group of people and they're just enraptured with her and telling this story about a filthy poem that was once read to her. And she starts pressing her hand to her head like there's pain and she's having a stroke.
That
And
was
she
hard to watch, wasn't
it's,
it?
it's hard to watch.
Ugh.
The number of times all the things that happen to her physically are hard to watch.
Yeah,
It's really
I
sad.
agree.
And she's struggling to speak. She keeps trying to go back to the poem and she can't finish it. She eventually collapses.
Mm.
And Elizabeth, we're back at the palace, is standing by a window looking out, and the phone rings, and it's Princess Margaret.
Mm.
And Elizabeth said she heard that something happened, and Margaret says, it's just a tiny, tiny stroke.
Mm.
It's fine. She said it was a total shock. She was unable to feel her arms and legs, and now she's in a hospital in Barbados, so they had to fly her there because
Mhm.
Mystique didn't have a good enough
Yeah.
hospital for
Yeah.
Princess of England. But the doctors assure her that she'll be fine, but she's slurring her words and can't feel half of her mouth.
Yeah. Ugh.
And she's coming home tomorrow for further tests and edible food.
Mm.
And she says that she's smiling while she says that. Not that you'd notice because she can't move her face.
Oh.
And you can see Elizabeth is very, very worried.
She's upset. Yeah.
She's real upset
Mhm.
by this. And we see Margaret being carried on and off a plane because she can't walk.
Yeah.
And it's a public flight. It's a British Airways flight. So
Yeah, that
people
was
are
wild that they had
That was
her on a
wild.
public flight. I was like,
They
"What's going
flew
on
public
here?"
flights more than you would realize.
Really?
Well,
Okay.
remember when the night that Princess Diana died, she was just going to take a regular flight back to
Could
London.
you imagine, like, just getting on a plane and seeing Princess die there?
Holy shit.
I know.
I was on a flight with Rihanna,
Oh.
but this was 2007 before I really even knew who she was, coming back from Nova Scotia.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I guess
Okay.
she had like a show there or something. I
I
don't
would
know.
love to go to Nova Scotia.
Oh, Nova Scotia's amazing. My dad had a house there for
Oh,
years.
I became obsessed with it. What is that movie I always reference? It's with Kevin Spacey, and he run The Shipping News.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And
We
I
could
believe
totally do a trip in Nova Scotia. I could be the tour guide for Nova Scotia.
I believe
got
it's
us.
supposed to be set there or it's filmed there. It has a tie to Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia is gorgeous. It
Yeah.
is an incredibly beautiful place, and the people are so freaking nice.
I'm
It's
just drawn to like
awesome.
isolated dramatic looking places.
You would really like Cape Breton then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason it's New Scotland. Like, it looks like the coast of Scotland, Cape
Awesome.
Breton. It's gorgeous.
Awesome. Okay, put that on the tour.
Okay, we're adding that. Okay.
This is gonna
So
be real fucking expensive.
we're gonna be pa-choom, 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 like all over the place. None of this makes sense together. It's fine. So we see Margaret. She's going in for her MRI when she
Mhm.
returns to England, and the stroke was relatively mild,
Mhm.
and she'll need meds to lower her cholesterol and blood pressure, like most ladies of a certain age,
Mhm.
above,
Mhm.
and she needs to take an aspirin every day. But this won't. But this is not good enough alone. This medication. She's going to need to tamp down her lifestyle a little bit.
You know,
Make
quit
one or two
smoking.
modifications, most of which are not smoking and drinking all day, every day.
Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
I read at one point she was smoking 60 cigarettes a day. 3 packs of
Wow.
cigarettes a day.
Wow. Okay. Mm.
And she says, my life now will just be Nicorette gum and physical therapy.
And let me tell you something. As a former smoker, I quit smoking.
Okay.
It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I quit
Okay.
May 8th, 2006.
Okay.
And or no, May 6th, 2008. I had that backwards. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I always say when I am 70 years old, guess what?
You're going back to smoking?
Going back.
Oh, yeah.
Going back. I'm going to be sitting on my porch with my sister wives rocking, staring
Okay.
out at the mountains,
Right. Smoking.
lighting up a cig.
Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
I'll hang out with you for
Mhm.
that. I won't be.
Happening.
I'll have the occasional cigarette. My
Mhm.
mother, for years, I mean, my parents were both smokers. My dad just like quit cold turkey in the early 80s.
Yeah.
My mom quit on and off, but for years she would have one cigarette on her birthday every year.
Oh.
That was like her birthday gift
See,
to
now
herself.
if I'm drunk, I'm
Mhm.
grabbing cigarettes off of people. I'm doing it. But I'm rarely ever drunk, so
Mhm.
it's not a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, there's something about it. You know what I mean? It's the hardest thing. So I feel for her in this moment.
Remember Nicorette gum? What a craze that was.
Yes, I
My
remember.
aunt used to smoke a lot of or chew a lot of Nicorette gum when she was trying to smoke, and it would just be like left around the house. It was so gross. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Then they have the patch. I think they still have the patch.
I think they still have Nicorette gum. I've seen it at
Yeah.
the drugstore.
But I'm with you, backdoor friends who are trying to quit smoking. It is a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
hard.
glad I never really became a smoker.
Yeah.
But Margaret is not loving any of this right now.
No,
She's
Margaret's
not into it.
because what does Margaret have to do?
Yeah,
You know, what is she doing?
you can go physical therapy, girl. What else do you got going on?
Yeah. Come on, do something.
Um, at one point she's napping on the couch and like two people come running to her and she's like, I'm still alive. I am just taking a nap. Like,
Yeah.
leave me alone, all of you people.
I have to tell you something very funny. In the next episode, we're waiting on the Queen Mum to die.
Yes.
And at one point I write, so Elizabeth's with Queen Mum and she dies. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, she didn't. She's still alive. So I did a Margaret.
I keep coming back. Poor Margaret. Or Margaret's like, just leave me alone. And you see her wandering around her house and she's looking for a cigarette. Oh, you see them like they're dumping booze in the toilet.
Stuff.
They're throwing out her cigarettes. They're
Mhm.
doing all this to try to protect her. She finds a cigarette in her jacket and who amongst us hasn't been like, oh, thank God.
Like that time I found that M&M in my bra.
Yeah, exactly. Very similar. You find like a piece of candy in like a pocket from a coat, or you find $20 in a pocket from a coat the year before. It's
Or
the
you
best
see
thing
like
ever.
a donut in the trash that's right on the top that your kids didn't really eat. You're like,
Right. You could go right in there and get that.
Yeah, you could save that.
Who amongst us?
Mhm.
Elizabeth comes in to visit Margaret, and Margaret says, I take a nap, and everyone thinks I kicked the bucket. And now you arrive with anxious looks. Like, leave me alone. And Elizabeth hopes she's taking it easy and canceling official events. And she says she doesn't cancel everything. She hates an empty diary. And she assures Elizabeth she's fine. She's on her way up, not on the way out.
Very sweet.
And I know. And we see this, she's back on a plane. She's going back to Mystique. She's greeted by her friend Anne, who we see later in the episode as well. Not Princess Anne, daughter of Elizabeth. This is her friend.
Yeah.
And her friend's like, let's just have a quiet time. We'll sit at the beach. We'll go for a picnic. And Margaret's like, we're having a party. I'm back. we're partying.
I'm back. I need to liquor up, have some smokes, be the
Mhm.
center of the attention again. Like, and this is what I'm saying. I think she does a lot of this out of boredom. Like, what
I
does she have to do? This is why people need to work.
This is why people need a job. Because really, she has nothing to do all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I can remember when I was periods in my life when I wasn't working a lot or something like that. Like, you just smoke because you're bored.
Right.
And it's either that or eat. So you're like, oh,
Right.
I'm just going to go have another smoke. Yeah.
Right. She's bored out of her gourd most days, so she's creating a party everywhere she goes. Plus, she was the party girl. She liked that
Yes.
fun.
100%.
So we see Anne. She's ironing a dress for the evening. I suppose that's what she's doing. And Margaret goes into the bath and shower. And she's showering, and her hand goes to her head again. She's having another stroke.
Yeah.
And
This is bad.
this is bad. And the water's running, and she's trying to turn it off, and she
Ugh.
can't. And she turns on the water really, really hot. And she can't get out. She collapses, and she burns the hell out of her feet and the
Ugh.
bottom of her legs.
Even talking
Ugh.
about it freaks me out.
I know. Thankfully, Anne realizes, like, she's been in there a while. What's
Mhm,
going on?
mhm.
And finds her unconscious.
How old is she at this point? Do we know? Like, how
Well,
old was she when she died?
how old? Hold on here. I have it up. Hold, please. She died in 2002. She was 72 when she was 71. She would have been 72.
Okay, so
This year
she's
she was
probably
71.
like 69 at this point.
Yes, this is before her 70th birthday.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Gotcha.
so okay, where are
That's
we here?
young. Like
Yeah,
in today's world, that's young.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And think about it. Elizabeth lives for another 21 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey everyone, stay tuned. Little Miss Recap will be right back after these words.
She comes back to Buckingham Palace to be greeted by an incredibly worried Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
She can't walk because of the damage to her feet. Her face is very limp, and it's difficult to understand her. And so we see her at the table with Elizabeth and the Queen Mum,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all talking. And again, our beloved seniors, the Queen Mum can't hear a damn thing, has no idea what's going on.
I was just gonna say, like, poor our beloved seniors take so much abuse.
On this
I'll
house.
never forget Margaret saying, "Just shoot her," about her mother. Like, oh my god. Jesus.
Um, she says the stroke actually is right now is the least of her problems because what's happened to her feet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Elizabeth asks why she didn't come home sooner. And she's like, well, all sorts of things had to be modified first. And like they had to, put bars in the back. She's just hating
Mhm.
every second of this. She does
They're
not want
like
to do any of
they're
this.
like fall proofing her
Yeah.
environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Queen Mom's like, I don't need handrails for anything.
I know. Motherfucker. Typical mom energy coming in there with that.
Right.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm.
And Margaret's big thing is she can't wear heels anymore.
Mm,
And that's devastating to her
mm.
because she had such a flair for fashion, and she was always dressed beautifully.
Yeah.
And the fact that she can't wear her beloved heels anymore is a problem. Elizabeth is trying to help her, and Margaret says she'd rather die than do exercise.
Yeah.
Same girl.
Yeah.
No, not
Same.
really.
Same.
I felt that way though.
No, many days I feel that way.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And it's about to be her 70th birthday.
Mhm.
And she wants to do a big, nice party at the Ritz because
Mm,
we love the Ritz, don't we, Lilibet?
mm.
And we have such special memories there. And the Queen Mom's like, huh? What? What are you guys talking about? What did I miss? What do you, like, she's just in her own little world over there. I don't like the casting of the woman of the Queen Mom because she looks nothing like what the Queen Mom looked like. The Queen Mom was so
Mm.
stinking cute.
Really?
Oh
Okay, I'm gonna
yeah.
have to look
I
up
mean,
the real Queen Mom
little
because I
old
don't
lady
remember.
cute. Little old lady cute. She looked a lot like Elizabeth, really.
Elizabeth is an adorable little old lady.
I know
And
she
that
is.
actress they've aged her up tremendously, right?
Mhm.
She's
Mhm. Yeah, Imelda Staunton is not that old.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember her name.
Um, and so now we're back in World War II, London, and Elizabeth wonders if the Ritz will even let them in. And Margaret suggests telling them who she is, and she's like, "Oh no, 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 we can't tell anybody who we are." And Margaret's like, "Well, then we'll just have to go bat our eyelids, won't we? Like, if you're not going to pull rank here, we're just going
Yeah,
to have to
we're
flirt
gonna have
our
to
way
whip
right
out the
into here."
sisters.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Elizabeth decides that she's just going to lead the way, walks right up, and goes right into the ballroom. And this kind of proves that whole thing. Like, if you act like you belong somewhere, people don't.
White man confidence.
Yeah.
Just
If
walk
you
in there
act
with
like you
it.
belong
Mhm,
there, you
mhm.
belong there. And
Yep.
being the next in line for the throne of England probably gives you a lot of that confidence. I
Yeah.
do what I want.
Yep,
Even
just
if you
get in
people don't
there.
know who I am, I
Yep.
do what I want. And they're in this ballroom. People are celebrating. It looks like the best New Year's Eve party of all time. And Margaret and Peter Townsend go to dance, and then Portia and Elizabeth go and dance. And Elizabeth excuses herself to take her coat off to the cloakroom. And an American soldier who's black, which I think is a choice that they made given the party that we're going to go down to, the like Jitterbug Harlem party,
Yep.
runs into her and invites her to the party in the basement, which is way more fun than whatever's happening up there.
Tell me the truth, did you get Titanic vibes?
Oh,
Because everything comes back to the Titanic for me.
I didn't even think about that. No,
Like
not at all.
Jack inviting her down to the
Yeah,
party with the
with
3rd
yeah,
class.
where
Yep,
it's really a lot more fun.
yep, and everybody's hot and really
Right.
adorable and having a blast.
Yes. And that's what this is. She thinks about it for a second and she decides to go downstairs. There's jazz music playing. It's a very different feel. And just as she's about to go down the stairs, a British soldier is coming up and warns her about going down there. He says it's full of Americans
Mm,
ugh,
mm,
doing the jitterbug.
mm.
And she's like, I don't recognize that. And he says, it's banned in England for good reason because it comes from Harlem. And Elizabeth's like, what
We
the
got
hell's
ourselves
Harlem?
a racist footloose,
That's
everybody.
right. Exactly. She's like, what the hell's Harlem? And the English soldier says, it's a ghetto in New York City.
Ugh.
And the soldier thinks he recognizes her. He's like, do I know who you are? She's like, nope, nope. Never seen me before in your life.
Mm.
No idea who I am. And so now we're at Margaret's birthday party. And Philip, for some reason, cannot go. I guess he has some
Yeah.
other event, which seems
Oh.
strange to me. It's his
He's always
sister-in-law's.
running off to somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like Chance from Lalu. Like, do we have eyes on him? Where's he going? What
He's
does
probably
he
banging
have
other
to
people.
do that he's always running off?
I know.
He
He's
can't
always got
support
something
her
going
through
on.
this? Come on.
Come on. And he asks if someone will be with her, and she says that she's taking Anne and Porchy as her dates. And Philip says Porchy never lets anyone down. He's just a
Oh, poor
good
G.
man. And Philip asks Elizabeth if she's okay, and she says she's very worried about Margaret. Like, he can see she's not her normal self. She's very worried about
But he
Margaret, and
can't do his one job. He has one job. Be
to be
married to
with
your
her.
wife.
Right.
That's it.
And he says, hasn't it always been that way?
Mm,
And she supposes it has. She's been worried about Margaret her whole life.
yeah.
And Margaret is determined to wear real shoes to this.
Mhm.
Watching them put her shoes on her is just so painful. Her feet are so swollen
Ugh.
and ugh. And she's determined to walk into the Ritz.
Yeah.
And she does. And they're back at this lovely, I think it's the same ballroom, this lovely ballroom for this party. She comes back to Buckingham Palace, thanking them all for coming. And she says, as you know, she spent a lot of time in wheelchairs and hospital beds looking at the sky. And she says that one thing throughout it all sustained her were the memories. And Elizabeth looks real nervous. She's like, what memories are we talking about here?
Are you going to talk about that time I jitterbugged with the,
Right,
with
with some
the
black Americans
with
in
the
a
black
basement bar?
American?
Is that what
Yep.
we're talking about here?
Yep. Are you going to talk about the time I with the
Right.
and
And
the and I
exactly. And she says she has fond memories of quite a few evenings at the Ritz. One in particular comes to mind.
Mhm.
And a very different side of Elizabeth comes to light. And Elizabeth's like, nope, nope,
We're
nope,
cutting this off.
we're not
cutting
doing this.
off. Mhm.
And she stands up, and this is one advantage of being the queen. Like, once she stands up and starts talking, no one's going to shut her up.
Yeah,
So
no
she gets
one's
to do
going
whatever
to
she
pay
wants.
any more attention to Margaret.
Nope, 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 nope. And Elizabeth stands up and she says, since the day she was born, Margaret Rose has been her constant companion. And they both loved their wooden horses on wheels. And when they got into trouble, Margaret would blame everything on their invisible cousin Halifax. So I love this. I love the
Very
idea of
cute.
them as little kids.
Very
Like,
cute. Mhm.
anytime they're getting into mischief.
Mhm.
And Elizabeth says, it isn't easy growing up in a family being number two. And she has been her ally through it all. And she wants to tell everyone about the one who did her duty, her constant companion and support, and life without her is unimaginable. And they
Yeah.
raise a glass to Margaret.
And I was sobbing.
I wasn't sobbing, but I was like, fuck. I mean, we
Mhm.
know what's coming here.
Mhm.
Um, and Margaret doesn't know. Oh,
Anything.
Margaret doesn't want to be touched and is cross while Elizabeth is talking to her on the phone. And Margaret says people should be seriously ill more often because people are just being really nice to her right now.
Yes.
And Margaret is coughing, and Elizabeth asks if she's still smoking. And she says, of course not. That was Cousin Halifax.
Mhm. Mhm.
And after hanging up the phone, she has another stroke/episode and tries to get to her medication, which is across the room on a table. And she falls and collapses on the floor again. Now Elizabeth visits her in the hospital.
It's
And
looking pretty grim.
it's
Yeah.
looking dire. And you could just see how shaken Elizabeth is by this. Like, this is the thing. And I mean, we've seen Elizabeth have reactions to all sorts of things throughout this entire show, but nothing seems to have rattled her the way Margaret's impending death
Yeah.
has rattled
Yeah.
her.
It's rattled her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And she wakes Margaret up and says, hello, you. And Margaret says, no, goodbye, you. I'm
Mm.
afraid this is serious this time.
Mm.
I can't feel or see anything. She said, my body's deserting me limb by limb. And she's not eating, but she's not hungry. But Elizabeth brought her favorite jam tarts. And she's like, well, now maybe I'll be interested in eating because those are
Yeah.
my favorite things.
Yeah.
And
I have to
Go
tell
ahead.
you something funny. So,
Sure.
you know that we just lost Timmy's dad 3
Yes.
months ago in September.
Yes.
When he was in the hospital and like really close to the end, he was in and out of consciousness.
Yep. Yeah.
And I had brought him cookies, right?
Mm.
And he was a huge sweets eater.
Okay.
And he had been just kind of non-responsive, just, in bed. And I went up to him and I said, Bill, do you want some of this chocolate chip cookie? Nothing, right? And
Right.
then I started to pull it away and he sprang to life. And he's like, yeah, give me a bite of that.
I love it.
And I fed it to him and he was like, oh, that's delicious. That's delicious. And then like back out of it. And I was like, this would be me. Somebody
Yes.
would just wave a little cake in front of me and I'd be like,
I'm coming back to life.
mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it would totally be me. You know full well Elizabeth did not make these jam tarts. I'm guessing Elizabeth has never
No.
cooked a day in her life.
No.
But I like the idea of thinking of her just like making Margaret's favorite thing. I know it's not what
Yes.
happened, but I
Yes.
just like the idea of it.
Well, maybe with the same warmth, she called up and ordered the jam tarts.
Yes.
Something
Said
like
to
that.
her cook, can
Mhm.
you please make Margaret's
Yes.
favorite jam tarts so I
Yes.
can bring them to her in the
Yes.
hospital? And she also brought her a very pretty walking stick. I like how she calls it a walking stick, not a cane, for when she is back on her feet. And Margaret takes Elizabeth's hand and just a tear goes down her face. And they're just
Yeah.
holding hands.
She knows she's not coming out of this.
No, she's
Mm-mm.
there. This is going to be the beginning of the end. And we see Margaret convalescing at the palace. And she's just miserable. She can't live her life the way she
Mm-mm.
wants to live.
Mm-mm.
And she's really unhappy. We hear news of 9/11. And I think part of this is to mark the time so we
Yeah.
understand where we
Yeah.
are. But she's back with her friend Anne in London. So Anne is we're not back at Mystique again. And Anne is reading her stories of 9/11 to Margaret in the garden. I don't know if
Mhm.
we're Buckingham Palace, but we're somewhere in England.
And like those really sad stories from the flight, right?
Yeah,
Flight
the
93.
final phone calls and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. I remember
And
when that came out, like those audio that when they released the audio of that, I could not even, I still can't listen to it probably.
have you been to the memorial in New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And
amazing.
the one room where they play them?
Oh no, I wasn't in the room. I
Oh.
went to the fountain outside,
Oh,
the
I've
big
done the whole tour of the
Oh,
museum
okay.
and stuff too.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, what they did is beautiful.
Yeah.
But they go through the whole thing and there's, parts of the buildings and all that. But there is a room and they put it like a placard saying like, this is
Yeah.
what you're going to hear if you go in here. And it's just the audio of people leaving their last messages.
I don't know if I could listen to that, I'll be honest. Yeah.
And there's just boxes of tissues all over that room. Like,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting into.
Yikes.
Anyway. And Anne's reading her these stories of 9/11 and she says, this is also sad, and says, also such sad news about Lord Carnarvon. Carnarvon.
Mm.
Carnarvon. I don't know how you say it. This is Porchy. Anyway, I don't know how you say his
Oh,
last
okay.
name. And Em
Porgy.
asks, Porchy? Why? What's happened? And Anne says he collapsed while watching the news.
What if she said he's been Me Too'd?
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Well, because now you never know when someone says,
So
"Oh,
when
it's
someone's like, oh, that guy, you're like, oh, fuck.
oh, it's
What did they do
unfortunate to
now?
hear about like da da da," and you're
Right,
like,
you're like,
"Oh, yeah,
Jesus
he's been
Christ. Could he not keep his dick in his pants? What the
right."
hell? And Elizabeth and Margaret are talking, and Elizabeth says, poor Jean, about Porchy's wife. And
Yeah.
Margaret says, poor Elizabeth as well. He was such a good companion, so devoted to her.
So
Margaret
did he
says,
die?
yes.
So she loses Porchy, her sister, and her
And then her
mother
mother.
all
Yeah.
within a short amount of time. Mm.
Yeah. Well, Margaret says, all of those that are closest to her, I guess she's saying this to Anne, are abandoning her one by one. Porchy, Mummy soon, and then me. Oh no, she's telling this to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth doesn't want to hear about it at all.
Yeah,
I was like, no.
this is a move I would do. Like, I'm always the one who sees the moment through a poet's eye, so I will bring it up like, wow, this is really devastating to you right now. Like, I'm the one nobody wants around.
Do you realize how terrible this is for you? Are you aware of the pain that you're about to endure? Because if you're not, I'm happy to tell you what's coming.
Because I'll never forget my friend's dog passed, and then shortly after she got a new car, like something like that. And I said to her, wow, it's really poetic that like Max died and then your car died and now you have, and she was like, Amy, why are you saying these things? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Because I said something like, it's almost like your old life is just being erased.
Oh, Jesus, Amy.
Like, fuck off. And then I was like, oh, I should have kept that inside.
Yeah, that could have just stayed inside by the voice. Could have just used that for fodder and writing a story later. And Elizabeth does not want to hear about Margaret dying. And Margaret's like, I'm furious about it. I am not ready to leave this particular party. And Margaret says they need to discuss her funeral. She has a very specific plan. And she wants Elizabeth to reassure her it will go exactly the way she planned. She wants the finale of Swan Lake playing as people arrive. Her flair for the dramatic is just amazing.
I love it.
She wants to be in a flowered dress, not the typical black outfit.
Yep.
No red lipstick, she says. And she makes Elizabeth promise her she'll actually be dead when they close the coffin.
But what, Amanda, will be on her memorial iPad that is inlaid in the stone? Will it be the Cody and Janelle fight like mine?
No. Only you get that. It's particular to you. And then we see Elizabeth is in bed reading to her, and it's so sweet.
It's very sweet. It's a very sweet older sib, younger sib moment.
And it makes you wonder, like, did she sit in bed and read to her children? I don't feel like she did.
No, of course not. She's home 15 minutes a day. We know
every
this.
day. Yeah. And this is just, again, this is the person who knows her the best.
Yeah.
She's the one person other than Philip who can call her on her shit. And she can call her on her shit more than Philip can.
Yeah, because trust me, there's even a way that Jenny knows me that Timmy does not.
And they're reading this story in bed, and she says it feels silly to be doing this. And Margaret's like, I love this. And the story includes going to visit places. And Margaret says, the Ritz. Elizabeth says, honestly, you in that place. And Margaret says, no, it's you in that place. If people don't know what happened that night, they'll never understand the sacrifices that she's made and how much of your true self you have locked up and hidden away. She said Elizabeth caused havoc that night, and it was the end of the war. And Margaret falls asleep, and Elizabeth kisses her forehead and leaves. And Elizabeth is just so shaken by all of this. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
And
it really is.
She's just staring
and where's
at her
Philip
sleeping.
to comfort her? Nowhere to be found. He's off fucking that ballerina. Who knows?
Who the hell knows what he's doing? He's somewhere else doing other things. And so we're back World War II, and Elizabeth is in the basement where this party is rocking.
It looks so much fun.
It looks like so much fun. And you can tell she's never seen anything like this. She's just like, whoa.
And this is like
happening?
Right after the Harlem Renaissance. So like, I just would have loved to have been alive during that time. Some of the best poetry, some of the best plays,
jazz.
writing, jazz. Yep.
And the soldier who invited her down sees her and invites her to dance. And he says, "This is the place to be. No rank, no background down here." And she says, "In that case," she takes his hand. And Elizabeth is dancing her tail off and just having the best time. People are throwing her around. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
she's doing the shit she's never gotten to do.
Mhm.
And upstairs, it's the super stuffy party. And some old person is talking Porchy's ear off. And he's like, "Oh, I don't really
Mhm.
want to be here." And he says to Margaret that Elizabeth is gone for a long time and they all go and look for her. And Margaret is sure it's nothing because she never does anything irresponsible.
And she's not doing anything
She's not
irresponsible.
she's just
She's
having
having
fun.
fun. Mhm.
And they find her downstairs, and Margaret is so tickled by all of this. She's
Mhm.
tickled by this party, but more than that, she's tickled by seeing Elizabeth
Mhm.
have all of
Have
this fun.
fun.
And Elizabeth pulls Margaret onto the dance floor, and it's just these two glorious. It's just so glorious. These two women. They grab Porchy and Peter.
Yep.
They're dancing. Margaret and E hug. M and E. That's how I've been putting. Margaret and Elizabeth just hug so tightly and so sweetly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we see them both walking home in the early morning, and they're enjoying the memory of the night. And she's chewing gum, and Margaret's like, "How are you chewing gum?" She's like, "I think I got it from kissing somebody." And
Oh,
she thinks
so
Porch
innocent,
I
unlike us
know.
coming home
And
with
Margaret's like,
STDs and
"Ew,
shit.
that's disgusting," because it is disgusting. And she thinks Porchy might be a bit cross with them.
Mm.
And they pause at the gate and they wonder what the future will hold for both of them. And they're just arm in arm. And Elizabeth says, "Do you think we should go in and have breakfast with Mummy and Papa?" And you look over and it's older Margaret
Mm.
next to younger Margaret.
Mhm.
And she says, "I will be by your side no matter what."
Mm.
And young Elizabeth goes inside to have breakfast, and Margaret is left there. And then we just get the black screen of death that we refer to it. Princess Margaret died peacefully in her sleep at 6:30 a.m. on February 9th, 2002. And she was
Very
71
sad.
years old.
Very sad.
It is very sad.
Mhm.
It is very sad.
Could you imagine if you had one night of fun in your entire life?
Oh my God, seriously.
I mean, it's kinda like those people who, like, live it up in high school and never do anything else,
Right.
and you just live in that moment. Like, she probably just lived in that moment, and I feel really bad for her.
I do too. I do too. I feel bad for,
I mean, I don't feel bad for the Queen of England, don't get me
no.
wrong. I feel bad for the character of Elizabeth as we see in The Crown.
I can have empathy for everything that this woman had to give up.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But
She
she
got a
also
lot.
caused a lot of pain.
She caused a lot of
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
I mean, we talked about this in the beginning. Like we're fully aware of all of the atrocities of the British monarchy and
Yes.
everything that the colonialization and the
Yep,
havoc that the British Empire wreaked on the world. But in this, I can have empathy for her of everything she did have to give up
sure, sure.
to be who she was.
Yeah,
And so let's talk about Princess Margaret's death and what really happened.
okay,
And also, I have something about what actually happened the night of the Ritz.
okay,
So Margaret had a lung operation in 1985. Um, and that kind of started the beginning of her health problems.
okay.
January of 93, she was admitted to the hospital for pneumonia, and that supposedly influenced her to quit smoking for good, but it really
Mm,
sounds true.
okay,
Um, she did start having a number of strokes, starting with a mild one in February of 1998 while vacationing in Mustique, which we saw. The following year, she suffered a severe scald on her feet. We see that. And in January 2001, she was hospitalized after suffering a severe loss of appetite, is what Buckingham Palace said.
right.
After her various strokes and a period of poor health that left her partially paralyzed and experiencing vision problems. She had a stroke the day before her death that proved to be fatal. So she had a stroke at I don't know if it was Windsor Castle or Buckingham Palace.
Yeah,
But they took her. She died in the hospital. She died at King Edward VII Hospital,
okay.
which is a private hospital. And what did the royal family say about Princess Margaret after her death? By the way, this is coming from a prestigious journalistic source
Is
called
it you?
People.
Oh, it's not US Weekly.
It's not US Weekly. We want a tick up. We went to People magazine.
Okay.
And the official Buckingham Palace statement was, "The Queen, with great sadness, has asked for the following announcement to be made immediately. her beloved sister, Princess Margaret, died peacefully in her sleep this morning at 6:30 a.m. in
Mhm.
King Edward VII Hospital. She added that her children were by her side at the time of her death, and the Queen was kept fully informed throughout the night. Um, and other than the official statement released by Buckingham Palace, Elizabeth did not make a televised address.
Mm.
Instead, Prince Charles paid tribute in a television broadcast.
Ooh, I
I'm
gotta
guessing
get my
she was
hands on
probably
that.
too upset to even do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, "This is a terribly sad day for all my family, but particularly, of course, for the Queen, my mama, and my grandmother, the Queen Mother, and also for Princess Margaret's children, David and Sarah, and also my aunt's wonderful friends who, like all of us, will miss her deeply." My aunt was one of those remarkable people who, apart from being so incredibly vital, also had such incredible talents, he said, describing her as someone who lived life to the fullest, and for that we will always remember her, which is very sweet. When was Princess Margaret's funeral held? It was held at St. Mary Magdalene Church and Glamis Castle. Her funeral was held on February 15th, um, which is the 50th anniversary of her father's funeral.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay.
The event was also private. It was not a public funeral.
Okay.
And the service was held at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle for family and friends.
That's
And
probably why Elizabeth felt that she could show emotion.
she was just with her family.
Mhm.
And breaking from royal tradition, Margaret was cremated
Mm.
at Slough Crematorium, and her ashes were originally moved to the Royal Vault in St. George's Chapel before being transferred to King George IV's Memorial Chapel 2 months later. She wanted to be cremated
Wow.
because she wanted to be buried with her parents, and there
Okay.
was really no room for her to do it had she
Yeah.
not been cremated.
Well, okay. All
Yep.
right. It's getting crowded over there.
It is getting crowded over there. I found that interesting when you were on Hey Bunky with Mary Payne talking
Mhm.
about Westminster Abbey
Yes.
and how they were still burying people there
Yes.
up until the
Yeah,
2000s.
like, how could all these people fucking fit there?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
if anything ever happens to Westminster Abbey, we've gotta make sure they move the bodies or we're gonna have a real poltergeist situation happening there.
We're gonna have a real burial ground situation,
Yeah,
yes.
we gotta
Yes.
we gotta make sure they clean that up. So, they did go out that night, the night of VE Day. Um, their parents knew that they were going out.
Okay.
Um, they gave them permission. They went on the balcony, the royal family, King George and, Queen Mary, the mother,
Mhm.
Queen Mum. Um, they went on the balcony 5 or 6 times that day to
Okay.
cheering crowds. And apparently Elizabeth and Margaret were like, "We wanna be in this, like, see
Yeah.
this
Can
happening.
you
We
let
wanna
us
be a
go
part."
out into the people?
Right.
Mhm.
And so they were allowed to leave the party and take part anonymously in the party atmosphere. There was
Okay.
actually 16 of them that went out. It wasn't just the 4 of them.
Before. Okay.
And, the Queen said in 1985 in a BBC interview that, "I think we went on the balcony nearly every hour, 6 times. And then when the excitement of the floodlights being switched on got through to us, my sister and I realized we couldn't see what the crowds were enjoying, so we asked our parents if we could go and see it ourselves."
Wow.
And to blend in with the crowds, the Queen wore her auxiliary transport service uniforms. That's why she was in uniform.
Mhm.
Also, you see her on the balcony in that uniform.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was part of the, paying respect to the work that she did.
Sure.
She recalls, "Finally, we cheered the king and queen on the balcony, like everyone else. She was
Wow.
cheering her parents. And they remember lines of unknown people linking arms, walking down Whitehall, all of us swept along in a tide of happiness and relief." And she added that she and Margaret were terrified of being recognized, so she pulled her uniform cap down
Mhm.
a little tighter. But a grenadier officer among our party of 16 people said he refused to be seen in the company of another officer improperly dressed. So she had to put her cap on properly.
Whatever, douchebag. Who invited
Right.
him?
This is fucking Queen of England to be. Fuck
It
off. I
is
can do whatever I want
VE
with my
Day,
cap.
dude.
Right. Leave me alone. So among their group of 16 was Jean Woodruff, who would become lady in waiting to Queen Elizabeth,
Mm.
and Margaret Rhodes, a first cousin of Margaret and Elizabeth.
Mhm.
Rhodes remembers that evening. "It was like a wonderful escape for the girls. I don't think they'd ever been among millions of people. It was just freedom to be an ordinary person."
How cool is that?
Hmm.
So it's like
Uh,
Victory in England Day, but it's also like Victory for Elizabeth
for
Day.
her, yeah, it was
Like,
her
she had a
freedom day
little
too.
small victory that was a little freedom. Mhm.
Jean Barker, Baroness Trumpington, who
Ooh.
was working. Bletchley Park remembers seeing the princesses, and she said, I had a friend who was a bodyguard of the Queen, so I noticed her and Princess Margaret as they walked the streets of London. But they were people like everyone else. We didn't take any notice of them.
Yeah.
They did go to the Ritz. Rhodes recalls their group ending at the hotel. And for some reason, we decided to go in the front door of the Ritz and do the conga.
Mm.
The Ritz has always been so stuffy and formal. We rather electrified the stuffy individuals inside. And she added, I don't think people realized who was among the party. I think they just thought it was a group of young, drunk people.
Mm.
And I remember old ladies looking faintly shocked as one congaed through, eyebrows were raised.
Oh my God, that's so fun. I love that for her.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine being alive in that day? Like, what a fucking relief. Like, my gram always told me stories about the war,
Mm-hmm.
and she was 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, it affected everybody, and it
Mm-hmm.
was such a time of suffering and strife and
Mm-hmm.
fear, and to just have that relief of it being done. Like, what a fucking cork off the bottle. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
My grandfather fought in World War II.
Yeah, mine did too.
He was in the Japanese theater. My mom was born in 1943 and
Mm.
44, so they don't have any, obviously, memories of it. But
Yeah. My Graham's father
Mhm.
was like 40 years old. He was like 38 or 39. He had 3 kids and they drafted him.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
he
they
fought in the
drafted
war.
everybody.
Yeah.
There was no
Yep. Yep.
they needed everybody they could get, and they drafted women into to work in
Yep.
manufacturing and work in the war effort and all that. But yeah, I just love the idea of them just running
I love
around
it.
London that night,
I love it.
having a grand
Mhm.
old time. And I'm glad she got to do that. I'm
Yeah.
glad that's real.
Now she
They
runs
really did
London,
escape.
like literally.
Pardon me?
Now she like runs London, literally.
Well, not
Mhm.
anymore.
Well, R.I.P.
RIP. That's a legit
She gets
RIP,
a
not a
legit
Unabomber.
R.I.P. Yes.
Yes, it's
She
a
gets
legit RIP. not a Unabomber RIP.
Well, this was a fun episode.
This was probably my favorite the 2 best episodes I think of the last season are the Diana's funeral episode
Mhm.
and this episode. 4 and 8 I think are the best ones in this.
Yeah,
So
I agree. All right,
we
my
need 2
friend,
more.
we've said it all.
Yep, we've said it all. 2
We've
more to
said it
go.
all. We've said it all. All right. So guys, if you haven't already, check out our Patreon, Supercast, or Apple subscriptions. If you sign up for our bonus content, we are doing Sister Wives Rewatch, which starts when? Next week?
No, week after, because this week we have the first installment of Christine's wedding. Then we have
Which
the
was
second
great.
one, which is great.
Mhm.
And then the second one, which will drop next weekend.
Yeah.
And then the following week, we start our Sister Wives rewatch.
But
And Amy has something crazy planned, and I don't know
But
what
I
it is.
think by the time they hear this, it
Oh,
might
okay.
be a week.
Okay,
I'm
maybe.
not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So just know, guys, that you'll have David and Christine's wedding, the two episodes, and then the rewatch will start. And we're also we did Waco, we dropped that. We're
Mhm.
doing The Single Life on
Yes.
Patreon, which is a lot of fun.
You're still in the slog that is MAFS.
I'm still in the slog that is MAFS that will never end.
I'm enjoying the hell out of it. This is the first Married at First Sight season I've watched.
Okay. All right.
I'm just actually, I'm not enjoying the show nearly as much as I'm enjoying you and Steph talking about the show.
Yes. It's
Oh,
been
and
fun.
also the Golden Bachelor finale.
The Golden Batch wedding we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Yes, we're talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm watching Daughters of the Cult.
Okay, I'm
Daughters,
gonna watch that
whatever
today
is.
while I de-Christmas the house.
You guys know I am a writing snob. Okay.
Yes.
After coming off of watching the second season of Natalia Grace and then this, nobody knows how to write a fucking documentary anymore. What's going on?
Oh yeah, we're also going to be recording Natalia Grace.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah. So
I have so many thoughts.
I have so many thoughts. Yeah. All right, guys. So jump into our Backdoor Friends. It's our Facebook group. We have a lot of fun in there. We're like almost 850 people. Like it's getting crowded in there. So
I know,
reserve your spot.
I was telling Todd last night, I'm like 2 or 3 people are joining every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. It's like your third class steerage. Like, come on down, have fun.
Yeah, we're the
in
fun
basement.
We are not the snorty, stuffy party at the Ritz.
No,
we're
no.
the fun one in the basement.
Yeah. We're the basement wife.
We're the basement one.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.